Hello, welcome to Tea with the Druid. And this is Philip Carr-Gomm, and Tea with the Druid is brought to you by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. And already there are lots of people gathering in the sacred clearing. Let's have a look from South Darrant in Kent, and Germany, and East Yorkshire, and Castlegar, and Texas, and New Hampshire, and Prince Edward Island, and Ferring. Fantastic. Lovely to see you. Do make yourself welcome. And if you're watching the recording, you're very, very welcome too. As we gather around this time of Lughnasadh. Lughnasadh, although it's traditionally associated with the 1st of August, it's actually a whole period, really, of who knows how long it is. Let's guess. 10 days, a week, 2 weeks, a sort of period of time, Lammas time. So lovely to see Acorn Moon in New York, and Pascal in Dallas, Texas, South Africa, great Yorkshire, Lincolnshire Fens. I love this image of people arriving from different directions, coming into a clearing. And in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be at a thing called the Medicine Festival, where they have the most exquisite sacred grove. I mean, it's big, huge, tall trees. There's always a small fire burning in the center. It's absolutely the archetypal grove. But we make a grove in these Tea with the Druid sessions as well. Hello from Finland and South Wales and New Brunswick. So Liz is saying Lughnasadh lasts 6 weeks for me. Each festival season stretches to the next. That's very nice, Liz. And in fact, that brings me to a really important idea, I think, which with the eightfold wheel of the year, it's very easy for us to think of it as 8 discrete points. We say, now it's Beltane, now it's the winter solstice, now it's the summer solstice. And we drop into that habit of just using it as a moment in time, which has its own validity. The seagulls are going crazy tonight. You know, but the reality is time, it's flowing. The seasonal pattern is flowing. And the sort of energy from one festival flows into the next, particularly with these Celtic fire festivals, because they actually mark these liminal spaces or times between the seasons. So that Lughnasadh, although it's hard to believe in the high summer here, but it's actually marking a transition into autumn, the beginning of the harvest, the beginning of the letting go. And that letting go process of nature that we can kind of flow with and go with too, just allowing stuff to fall away from us, can carry right the way around till the next festival of Samhain. I mean, the next festival is your autumn equinox, and it carries it on. You go around to the next Celtic festival of Samhain. And that's the final shedding and letting go, symbolically, of death, of letting go completely. And then around we go into this period of darkness, seeking inspiration, seeking new birth. It's as if we're in the other world, waiting to be reborn. And then at the winter solstice, then in another way at Imbolc, we're born again. And so we go around the circle. So this is a time of gatherings, a whole month. The chosen chief of the order, who I handed over the chieftainship to, I think it was probably about 4 years ago now, Ema Burke. She has a lovely custom that I'm trying to adopt, not very successfully, but I'm trying, because she follows the old way of dedicating the whole of August to festivities and meetings. She tries not to work, tries not to have work engagements, but instead to spend August traveling, meeting people, coming together, going to camps and festivals and so on. And that's absolutely lovely. And that's the way it was in the old days. The land had been bountiful, there was the harvest was beginning, and so you could live off the fat of the land, as it were, and you knew that the dark times were coming, and they might be difficult times as well in the winter. So you made the most of it and really enjoyed yourself for the whole month of August. And I was thinking about how we could mark this time of Lughnasadh together. And and I thought right back to how I was taught Druidry. And I think for a very long time, I thought I was taught in a very dull way, in a very dull way, because I was taught by a much older man, by Newen, my old chief Druid. And I would go to his house and he would teach me by reading out a text. And he would read it out slowly. And he'd dive into certain points and expand on them. Then he'd move on and he'd focus on another point. And it's taken me a long time to appreciate that. I think the more kind of, what's the word, dramatic, engaging even way of teaching whereby you're not reading, I had always judged it to be the more effective. But I'm going to try teaching, if you like, or explaining in the way that my Druid teacher taught, if that's okay with you. I'm going to read. I've contributed to this book, Time for Magic, which is a lovely book celebrating Jamie Reed's artwork, all this tremendous artwork, and the artwork is related to each of the 8 festivals, and is also a kind of retrospective of his work. But I have written sections on each of the festivals, and what I'd like to do is invite you to imagine that we're all going out from the grove now to a field that is nearby. Just imagine that we've arrived and settled in the grove, and there are all these people from all over the world who are gathered with us now. And no sooner have we arrived that I'm asking you to up sticks and come out down this path into a field. There's a field where the harvesters have just been. The corn is cut because Lughnasadh is the time that is associated with the beginning of the harvest. And a lot of the fields have already been cut here, depending on where you are. This may well be the case around where you are as well. So the corn is cut, and they've already made that there are already these hay bales. And rather kindly, I had a word with the farmer earlier, and he's arranged the hay bales in a circle so we can all sit together in a circle in this field. It's pretty hot, but the sun is starting to drop down, and there's a very light breeze. Imagine a light breeze that's blowing, just bring refreshment. And somebody's walking around the circle now. They have a jug of ale and a jug of apple juice. So if you don't drink alcohol, you just have the apple juice. If you drink alcohol, you might like to have a jug of ale. There's this traditional association of John Barleycorn with Lughnasadh, of course, to refresh you. And I'm going to do what Newen did, is read some material out and then stress a few points. Lughnasadh means in honor of Lu, the sun god. Anglo-Saxon Christians renamed the festival Loaf-Mass or Lammas because at Mass they would offer loaves baked from their first wheat harvest. Thanks to Lu's light and heat, the crops have grown, and now it's time to start reaping the rewards of the work in the fields. This is the whole idea of, as we enter this period, all the work you've put in, all the seeds you've sown in the earlier part of the year and the earlier part of your life, now it's a time to rest and open up to the rewards of this. It's a time of harvest, of reaping. Traditionally, this was a time of gatherings. A whole month in Ireland was dedicated to socializing, with games, marriages, feasting, and the last of the summer wine being enjoyed before the cold sets in. If the Beltane-Samhain axis speaks of sex and death, the ushering into and out of life, as you may know, Beltane is a time associated with mating and the kind of spring-like energies of sexuality. Travel across the circle of the wheel of the year and you come to Samhain, place of death. Well, you can only die if you're born, and you can only born if your parents made love. So that's the axis of sex and death. But there's this other axis. The Imbolc Lughnasadh axis speaks of family and community, youth and aging. The nurturing we practice at Imbolc is by now transformed into the idea of sacrifice and the start of letting go and giving away. So Imbolc, traditionally the time of birth, of lambing, of the young child, the infant, of suckling, of milk, and translated to how we might as adults take that on board. It's like the energy and the encouragement is to encourage our capacity for caring and fostering, for feeding, for being parental, and for taking care. And over and on the other end of the axis, if you followed across the wheel of the year, you come to Lughnasadh, which is the time of weddings, of coming together, of socializing, of the family, and of the wider family of the community coming together. And of sacrifice too. It's the time when the corn is cut down, of the sacrifice of the corn god, of John Barleycorn. And of course, that's the same energy in a different form. Anyone who's been a parent knows that it's sacrifices involved. You have to sacrifice a lot of your energy, a lot of your time in order to nurture your children. This process of maturation and dispersing, this process of maturing and dispersion reaches its culmination at Samhain. But for now, the focus is on community and human connection. Our modern atomized world has eroded what once lay at the heart of every society, the virtue of genuine hospitality. And Lughnasadh, with its focus on sharing and socializing, offers a perfect time for us to remember this quality and find ways to share our own hospitality. Spring was all about potential, seeding ideas, crops, and new life. Now we're at the other side of the year, and all that care and attention will, we hope, be rewarded. Spring equals promise. Autumn, fulfillment. Now it's time for dancing and for loading the plates with food, because it's not going to last. The combine harvesters are already moving across the land, and summer is fading. We're not quite down here, but it can be. Sometimes the leaves can start to kind of be turning brown already. This is the first of 3 harvest festivals, the grain harvest. As with the sunset, you feel the beauty of the moment intensely because you know it won't last forever. The last sheaf left standing in the field at Lughnasadh had many names: the Cailleach, the maiden, the neck, the old sow, the frog, the winter, and plenty more. Sometimes it was bound in ribbons and given the place of honor at a feast, or taken home as a trophy and hung up until the next harvest. Often it was made into a corn dolly or a kern baby. In other places, the harvest's final stalk was considered to be evil, and farm workers would refuse to cut it, or would use it to cast a curse. John Barleycorn, the personification of barley in the old song, has been killed cut down and turned to beer or bread. I saw a video on YouTube by a Wiccan lady saying that Lughnasadh was a time when the Druids used to sacrifice people, and it's got thousands of views. Isn't it unfortunate? It's completely not true. But you get this kind of misinformation being, and you can see where the distortions come from, because it is a time of sacrifice, but of the corn. And so dropping into the meaning of this time, we come to a strange place that combines joy and sadness. It's a time of giving something up in return for reward, a time to let go, burn the chaff in the fields, clear away the old stuff that isn't needed, whether that's emotional or material. This echoes the spring cleaning of Imbolc at the opposite point of the wheel. Now that's an interesting idea, isn't it? Again, the opposites. You look at the opposite side of the wheel and you've got the spring cleaning. Let's get the house nice and clean for the coming year. And now there's another kind of spring cleaning. There's an invitation for autumn cleaning, perhaps at a subtle level within your own being, letting go of baggage, stuff you've carried. No need, throw it on the fire. Our harvest is the result of two processes. One of gathering what is wholesome, the sweet fruit, the promise of spring fulfilled, and another of threshing and casting aside what is rotten and useless. So it's a time of triage, as they call it in the medical world, of separating the wheat from the chaff. As we edit our lives, looking back on our failures and achievements, we might focus on our gains or our losses. The spirit of Lughnasadh calls on us to celebrate and to focus not on the declining of the year of our life, but instead on gratitude for the gifts that life has given us. Psychologists affirm that being thankful is good for the body and mind, and now is a good time for focusing on gratitude. A time also for lighting a Lammas fire, like the ones in Ireland that have for centuries been lit at this time on the hilltops, to burn away the bad things that have happened and celebrate the good. So now let's close our inner eyes, well, our outer eyes as well, if you like. If you feel like it, you might like to lower your gaze and close your eyes. Just to let all these ideas percolate and sink in a bit. Sitting in this field together, close to the earth and the sky, the forests around us, perhaps the sea way over there, mountains in the distance, and our friends with us. The apple juice and the ale is being passed around again. And now the first loaf is being passed around. A loaf made from the very first harvest. And as someone brings it to you and gently bows and offers it, you receive the bread in gratitude. As you take it, you notice it's still warm. It's so freshly baked. Imagine taking this bit of bread in your mouth, and as you place it in your mouth and start to taste the bread, you give thanks for the harvest. Thanks for all the good things that life has given you. Thanks for the earth beneath us, the trees around us, and the stars and sky above us. The sun is setting now. The first stars are coming out in the sky. The air is clear and fresh. And imagine now that having eaten this bread, you stretch your hands out to either side of you and you hold the hands of the person to either side of you, so that we all form a big circle together. Sitting in this field on these hay bales on this Lammas evening in August 2024. And we ask, O spirits of the land, O spirits of the corn, that the harvest might be good, that all beings might be blessed, that peace might prevail on earth, that the earth might be preserved and protected, the forests preserved and protected, the air in the sky made pure, the water in the sea made wholesome. May all of our lives be blessed. May the land be blessed. We give a light squeeze, sensing the solidarity of the community around us, that feeling of connection. And we then gently let our hands drift away, and we bring them towards our stomachs. That's where the bread has gone. And here you feel your belly, and you feel the warmth in your belly. May I feel centered, whole, complete. And as you do this, your awareness of the sacred grove begins to fade, or rather, your awareness of being seated in the circle in the field begins to fade as you become aware of being seated in front of your screen, the floor beneath you, the ceiling above you, and the walls around you. Some nice comments here. Philippa has a memory. Having nice comments from the Quran. Thank you. And yes. So lovely. So that you see this. So that's how I was taught. I was taught sitting next to this wonderful old chief druid, and he would just read me texts and then make comments on them, and that's how I learned. And then we would celebrate the festivals, and then we would come and meet up, and we would celebrate the festivals here. So have a wonderful Lughnasadh yourself, however you experience it, whether it's very simple like baking a loaf of bread, or you're engaged perhaps in a group having a ceremony together. However you celebrate, may your time be blessed, and I very much look forward to seeing you next week. Much love, many blessings, and happy Lughnasadh.